Box corners are a great and easy way to add depth to any bag or pouch. In the beginning of our bag making journey, getting box corners right could be confusing. As you can see on this pouch, the sides sound equal. In today's video, I am going to be sharing with you two different methods alongside tips and tricks that will make boxing corners for any project easier. Let's begin. Let us assume we are making a tote bag and this is the entire fabric we need for the tote bag. I am going to place the fabric right sides facing like so, and we are going to assume that this is the bottom of our bag already closed. This is the top of our bag. So now that the bottom of our bag is already closed, what we are going to do is that we are going to close up the sides. Side seams are closed shut and our tote bag is coming to life. By now, I assume that you would have already decided on how wide you want your bag to be. So you would have already decided on the depth of the bag, alright? I'm just going to press quickly, just to press the bottom, the bottom of the bag so that it forms a crease. That crease that it forms will serve as a guide so that I am able to box my corners properly. Okay, all I want is just that line. So the line is right here. This will serve as a guide since we do not have a seam at this point. I am just going to snip my seam allowance. Make sure you are not snipping the thread, okay? This will just help our seam allowance lay flat so that our corners are nice and equal. So I am going to open up like so, and I am going to press the seam flat. So we are working on one side at a time. Do not bother about the other side. We are focusing on one side at a time. So I am going to open up my seam like so, and I am going to try as much as possible to match the side seam to this line we have at the bottom. It is fine if your first attempt is not perfect. When I am confident that they align, I am going to bring my ruler and I am going to mark out how wide I want my boxed corner, or how wide I want the corner to be. Please take note that the width of the line you mark at this point is going to be the width of your finished boxed corner, okay? Of your finished corner. So in this case, let us assume that we want our corner to be 2 inches wide. I am going to mark a line that is 2 inches wide, and the marking tool at this point doesn't have to be erasable because nobody is going to see this. I should have interfaced this one. So I am going to pin in place. One thing that would help us, one thing that I do that would help you in determining if your corners are going to come out nice is to pin on the line that you marked. So I'm just going to put a pin like so. One is here, and I am going to put another pin from the other side. And I am going to remove the previous pins that I put. I am going to turn to the right side, and this would give me an idea in order for me to know if my corners are going to come out perfect in a way, almost perfect. And I want you to note something. Because the line here is 2 inches, the height here is supposed to be 1 inch, okay? So the height from the line to the bottom of the panel should measure 1 inch. So if the line you have marked here is 4 inch, then the height from the bottom of the panel to that line should measure 2 inches. I am going to do the same to the other side. Open up your bag, lay the seam flat so that the side seam and the bottom line align. I am going to arrange. I am going to press flat. And mind you, your marking tool doesn't have to be a 90-degree ruler, okay? could be any type of marking tool as long as you can measure with it and it is straight. So once again, I've got my 2-inch line and I am going to mark. So I'm going to take both corners to the sewing machine. I am going to sew on that straight line and on the straight line. Our corners are sewn and this is what we've got. What I'm going to do next is that I am going to trim the seam allowance to about half its size, and I am going to turn the back to the right side. This right here is the moment of truth. Okay. One side is down, the other side is down. You want to make sure that you are putting your hands in the corners to get them boxed, okay? To make sure that the corners are coming out pointy. So this is why I asked you to iron the bottom of your bag in order to form the middle crease, okay? So that we are able to align the side seam to the bottom of the bag. This trick really helps me a lot when it comes to boxing corners. So can we see? So that's that for method 1. Let us move over to method 2. For this method, we are going to have a bottom seam. So I have 2 panels here, right sides touching. I am going to put one aside so that I can work with one. Now you can do this before or after you sew. Since we know that we want the width of our corner to be 2 inches, you are going to measure 1 inch from the seam, right? From the seam, you are going to measure 1 inch in and 1 inch upward from the seam. If the width of your corner is going to be 4 inches, you are going to measure 2 inches inwards, 2 inches upwards. You want to make sure that you're leaving your seam allowance out of it. So what I am going to do first is that I am going to sew the side and the bottom short. Then I am going to make my box for the corners. The bottom and sides are closed, so this is what we have. One tip or one trick that I would give to you is to make sure that the side seams and the bottom seam are the same. So you want to make sure that you have the same seam allowance for the side and for the bottom. That would help us box our corners properly. So again, we want our corner to be 2 inch wide. So what I am going to do now, it's not compulsory you do this with a L-shaped ruler or a 90-degree ruler, as long as you can measure or mark with it, okay? So what I'm going to do now is that from this seam, I am going to measure 1 inch inwards. 1 inch inwards like so. And from this seam, I am going to measure 1 inch upwards. Okay, so if your corner is going to be 4 inch wide, you want to measure 2 inch inwards and 2 inch upwards. Okay, so whatever it is that you want the final width of the corner to be, you want to divide that into 2. Then you want to measure it from the seam. You are not adding the seam allowance, okay? You are going to start from the seam line and you are going to measure it inwards. I am going to do the same to the other side. I am done making my box and I added a smaller box below the box that I made because we want to sew on this line, so we are going to need a seam allowance. So right here I have got my seam allowance. Now I am going to cut on that line on the seam allowance line. Mind you, you don't have to do this after you sew your side seam and your bottom seam, okay? You can do this while you are drafting your pattern. It doesn't have to be after you've sewn the side seam and the bottom seam. So this is what we've got now. I am just going to do a couple of stitches around this area in order to reinforce and hold it properly. The next step is for me to box my corner. So I am going to open up my bag like so. One tip or one trick that would save you a lot of stress is to make sure you are opening up the entire project you're working on, okay? And for this method, I am going to use a double-sided tape in order to help me properly. Then I'm going to take my double-sided tape and I am going to cut out just little, because we are only going to need it within the seam allowance. It is only going to be within the seam allowance. We don't want it to be visible when we turn our back to the right side at the end of the day. So from the right side, I am going to fix in my double-sided tape. Let's do it from the side seam. Like I said earlier, the double-sided tape should be within your seam allowance, okay? So I am just going to press this in place. I'm going to turn to the right side, like wrong side, to the wrong side. And I am going to open up the tape. So like we did for method 1, we are going to align the side seam and the bottom seam. What the double-sided tape does is that it helps us hold them in place so that they don't move around. That is a life-saving hack, a life-saving tip, guys. That is what the double-sided tape does. Okay, so now that I've got that in place, I am going to pin. I am going to do the same to the other side. So now that I've got both sides pinned, I am going to sew with the seam allowance that I added. Before you go to the sewing machine, you could also elongate your lines, because right now they are only on one side. I am one of those people who believe in drawing out your seam lines. If you do not know how to sew straight, or if you do not know how to eyeball your seam allowances, drawing out your seam line is a really good option, in my opinion. So this is what I've got. My corner is sewn and ready to go. The corner sewn and ready to go. I am going to trim off the seam allowance. And I am going to turn to the right side. Let me know which method you prefer, guys. Let me know which method you prefer in the comment section. So this is what we've got. This is what we've got. This is not a tote bag anymore. This is more of a pouch than a tote bag. So let us measure our corner. We wanted a corner of 2 inches, right? And you want to make sure you're poking out the corners, okay? You want to make sure you put your hands in to poke out the corners. This fabric is a funny one, but yeah. We wanted a corner of 2 inches and we've got 2 inches. So this is the first method, method 1, without a bottom seam, only that we pressed, and this is method 2. Like I said, this is no longer a tote bag, this is more of a pouch now. Let me know in the comment section which of this method you find easier, which of this method you would go for.